welcome everybody. I'm Stacy Clark. I'm the CEO of CircusTalk. I'm a white woman in my 50s with blonde shoulder length hair and a sporty build. And today I'm wearing a gray shirt. I'm really delighted to be able to pass the torch right over to my special guest, someone I had the pleasure of working a little bit with this time last year, Ian Jenkins, who is the casting director and project development at Europa Park, Germany, also creative director at Blue Banana Entertainment, also in Germany. Ian, tell us all about you.
Well, you said you're a white woman. I'm a white man, quite old, maybe which represents my experience in this business, but I'm 60 years old. Sportive, yeah, maybe somehow still sportive. I can still, because I used to compete at ice skating, I can still skate. And that's about it. I'll say I'm 6 feet tall, and I haven't weighed myself for ages, probably a few kilos heavier than I was.
Aren't we all? You touched on it. Let's start there. You were a professional skater. Yeah,
I've got to say that I look back and was it luck? Was it my parents helping me make the right decisions? I was just a simple ice skater starting at 13 years old, wanting simply to be able to skate backwards. And I don't know, I got sucked into the drug of loving ice skating and was skating within 1 month, skating 7 days a week. Didn't really have a future goal, wanted to do well at the next competition, wanted to become British champion, and wanted to go to the Olympics. And then after that, somebody called me and asked me would I perform in shows, and it went from I can't say it was a clear goal, but it was fortunate. I worked hard. I think I understood what you have to think about to be good at your job. Obviously, my first thing was always technical. That I always, I must say, even myself, having had a pretty good career, I didn't think I was the most talented ice skater in the world, but I was very technical, and I would probably, if I learned something, I would do the same every day. And I think the circus world and any physical sport, you should have the same approach. That understand the technique, because at some point you either have to put it right yourself or save it. And so my career just went from little boy wanting to learn how to skate backwards and an evolution of into shows, and then Europa Park asked me when I was in Paris already, still performing, would I come in and work in project development, and came to Europa Park, project development. Within 6 months, I was head of the shows. Within another year after that, we created an entertainment department, which I took the directorship for, and then carried that, worked with the colleagues, I think quite successfully, for 9 years. And now Blue Banana, which is a company owned by Europa Park, which is an external show production company. So we always had an ideology that we would only take care of our core business, but now we have so much knowledge, so much experience, that the owning family have said, okay, now we can offer our expertise and services on an external base, which took me to taking a show to London, taking 2 shows to Turkey. I'm possibly going to South America in the next few months to do another show, if the contract signs. But yeah, so living amazing.
We're going to talk a little bit about the casting, Shirley, but I'd love to share with everybody what that means, show production at Europa Park, using the Blue Banana Entertainment entity to create and then produce these shows. Can you describe, for example, the body of work, or even perhaps drill down into one of your most recent projects and tell us what that looks like?
I'm still creating shows for the park. I still do the ice show, and then also we have a another event called Traumatica, which is in our horror season. It's a horror event. And last year we did a circus. I casted and directed the circus. And we do have those. The idea was actually that we build something and then we have that on sale. And you could possibly come in and buy the circus that I did or an ice show that I did. In actual fact, the main interest is people are coming to me and saying, can you do something else for us? And I went to Turkey. They bought the IP, a very famous IP, and then I created a show around it. Then I went down there and directed the show with a choreographer, and then it's in their resort right now. So that's how it can go. I represent the whole Europa Park. I'm not in the entertainment department, but nevertheless, I work very closely with the entertainment department. I propose acts to them. They obviously go to all the festivals like myself, and they're casting as well. We have a Europa Park database as well, entertainment at Europa Park, which is very important. But so it's a constantly evolving process of, in my business, creating the shows or casting, and it works like that.
So let's talk about those casts a little bit. In a typical show, if there is such a thing, how many cast members would you be looking at, and what type of artists are they?
Well, if I mean, we do so many different kinds of shows. We do small character shows with our mouse, our mascot, which can only be a cast of 12, maybe 8 dancers, six guys, 2 girls, and then there's some type of acrobatic performance. Can be handstand, can be hula hoop, can be an aerial, depending on where we are. We have lots of different stages, some which are equipped with aerial, some many indoors, but we don't have motors in all of the venues, because not only do we have the shows on the park, but we have a big corporate business where a company will book a special event, and it can get up to, in our high season, we've got 300 artists in the park. When I say 300 artists, I'm also talking about the hotel musicians, the singers, the acrobats. We have a team of 16 acrobats from Brazil doing all the street entertainment. All of these guys have separate acts as well, and they're constantly working on new acts. And we'll make our corporate event up with most of the artists that are on the park. So if you're talking about numbers, if we're doing a dinner show, we've got 40 people in the show probably, with special acts, singers, musicians, and variety artist is not, it doesn't actually encapsulate how well these people are trained, but specialty performances. And then we sometimes we take their act as it is. They've got the costume, they've got the music, we love the theme, and it's really cool. And then maybe we could build a big production number which would highlight it, or we can, and in the case of the Traumatica circus last year, we took the talent and then we said, do you mind if we change the music, change the production, and then we fitted it totally into our production so it suited our theme. So it can work both ways. So one show can have 20 performers in, one show can have 40 performers in. I think the circus last year was 26.
What I'm hearing you describe is really the whole gamut then, all of this inside of the Europa Park and sort of by extension client base, which is representative, I think, of a lot of different sectors of circus. So now you've mentioned the interdisciplinary nature, the mixed disciplinary nature of it, and the fact that these come together as casts. So whether that's dance and circus and music, all of this. I haven't heard you mention ice skating. I think you have specific ice skating shows as well.
We have a show here. I've just opened last week the summer show with a new theme. We changed the show. We have 85% of our visitors are visiting us the next year. So we are in the position that we must change the show every year. So I've just opened the show. For that, we have 20 ice skaters in the show with an aerial performance. We will change the show. This show will run from now until the end of September. We'll change the show for Halloween. And then in the middle of November, we'll change it for Christmas. And then also sometimes we do a Traumatica, which is a sort of crazy, darker circus, which we would do for our horror event. But that's for guests more than 16 years old. So it's a little bit edgy, maybe a little bit controversial. We can be a bit more shocking with the effects, with the fire, with the explosions and things like this. But then last year we stopped doing the ice show because we did it for 12 years and then we did it with the circus. But yeah, skating, even though that I love circus, I've worked in circuses myself. I've worked in a lot of the Lido and a cabaret show with specialty performers with the big production. But still, of course, ice skating's in my heart. It's where I come from.
When it comes to the kinds of profiles you're describing and that big wide variety, does anything strike you as being distinct or very different from one to the next? For example, the ice skater who, like you, would have started in sport and then transitioned to the performing arts, or a musician who might have had a very different path toward the stage as compared to a circus artist? What separates and makes them unique in their own categories?
What separates them really is their individuality. When we're talking about the dancers in our shows, a dancer has always been trained to dance with somebody else. They're on a bar, they're working together, and ice skaters are predominantly, every single one of them started off as a solo skater, even at 4 years old. They're learning. So what our challenge is, trying to highlight their individuality and put it really in value for the guest. But at some point, I need them to skate with the rest of the people. And that's hard because they are soloists at heart, because that's how we, in ice skating, we always learned. But the difference, you can see the difference, it's very individual, that whether they did an ice skater work with dance? We can nearly always see that. And when I have I used to choreograph the shows myself, the ice shows. I never liked it because I never wanted to come and it was, well, one, it could have been a little bit the same from each year, but I think a dancer is probably the best to choreograph an ice show assisted by an ice skater. So you get the dance. It's quite difficult to get these great choreographers that we work with to work with the ice skaters who haven't done dance. They find it difficult, but then we have it assisted with a very technical ice skater. So then I want the skater to be very, very proud that it's a technically high level ice skating show. But then with the dancer, it will be really entertaining. But the individualistic of the artist is often where they've trained. Have they had a really good base? Because the base is everything. And that's the same with circus or dance, or my Brazilian street acrobats. They're super multi-talented, but maybe they work on 10 different disciplines rather than one. And you can see it. But they give an energy, because they're from Brazil. They give an energy which just is so engaging. But it's everyone has the choice. Do I want to really focus on one thing, what I want, or do I want to be a bit versatile?
I appreciate that you've mentioned the individuality, because I think that is so key to making shows that resonate and connect. And you mentioned that you want to put it in value, put one's performance in value for the audience. Arguably, it's for the artists themselves as well, so that they really feel that they are in a space where they thrive and love what they do and want to be able to offer as much as possible into that performance every single time they go out and do it. And that is an indication for me of putting the human first, really appreciating what they can bring, and then making sure that by default then, or by extension, it leads into the design of the show and their contribution to the show.
Yeah, I said my first my first goal actually is I need to create a show that the people love doing, the artists love doing. And I told them in the last week of the rehearsals, I said, this is going to be a fantastic show. It's going to be really great. And then 2 days later, I said, hang on, I've got to change my wording. I said, it will only be a fantastic show if you give it. And I said, it's very important to me that you enjoy what you do. You're proud of what you do. So if another ice skater comes, they're proud of the technicality, but then also they have to have fun. Because if you don't like what you're doing, the guest will know. Even if they don't see it and put it, they will say, maybe I can't put my finger on it, but I just didn't get the energy. And it's the same whichever show, whether it's ice skating or circus or dance or even music. You've got to love and have the passion and commitment to the sacrifice we all have to make, whether it's physical or emotional. It's quite a commitment to be a great artist in whichever discipline you choose.
Well, I would venture to say that the artists who are present with us today and also listening after the fact would appreciate knowing that that's part of your value system. And I think that's so key to be able to articulate, because it's a real enticement to work for companies who believe that and who nurture that type of culture where you are supported in doing the hard work that it is, but with such love and such passion, which of course circles right back to benefiting the audience, thus benefiting the company. And it's this beautiful sort of organic and harmonious cycle.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that the owner of Europa Park, when he invited me to come and work here, that he wanted to really have a great relationship between the office, be it whether it's all the assistants and the project leaders and the creators and the directors. He wanted a great understanding between, we're just as we are no more important than the artists. We have to work together, respect each other. And I think because I'd lived my whole life, whether it was as a sport or as an artist, and doing 2 shows a day at the Lido, I did 2 shows a day, 7 days a week for 13 years. That's, you need a commitment for that. But then I've been there through the good and the bad of trying to be able to recreate this energy each and every night. And that's very important for the owners of Europa Park, that the artist knows that we 100% appreciate what they do. We know that it's very difficult to do a physically demanding, and sometimes we have to do 2 or 3. Our shows are shorter in duration. They're normally 30 minutes this summer, but our evening shows can be 4 hours long, whether it's a dinner involved, and we do 1,000 corporate events a year on top of our day business. So we make up different kind of shows. So, but we understand their commitment and we understand the challenges, and we understand that an artist has a family, has a child, has a husband, has a wife, and has different challenges, and we try to accommodate that and appreciate that, and give them every opportunity to perform great and enjoy what they do. And most of the artists, if we're up to 300, 290 will ask to come back next year.
That really sort of leads me, I mean, that's an extraordinary number, and it leads me to another series of questions around a little bit of nitty gritty. You've described so many different show types and different kinds of creations that you put forward, whether it's into the corporate market or whether it's for your park guests. What do contracts look like in terms of length? And who exactly is this roster of artists that you're drawing from for so many different shows over the span of a year?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, we've got the database. The entertainment department has a database for the artists. I would encourage artists to always drop an email from time to time, because when we're casting, and we're casting for next year, but something things can always happen, whether it's a visa problem, whether it's an injury, whether it's sickness, and it changes. And sometimes an email, an opportune email on the desk at the right time or something can just remind us if we need someone in a short notice or something. Predominantly, if I talk about, we've got dancers, acrobats, musicians. Some of them, it's a tax thing as well. If we employ an artist, we can keep them here for probably a 10-month contract from March until January. And then we will employ that person. We give them accommodation, and they pay German tax. They have insurances, and they're, I think, very well looked after and very well protected in a beautiful country. But we also have shorter contracts, 6-month contracts for a special artist, a great juggler, handstand, flying trapeze can sign a contract with us up to 6 months, and that person would be self-employed. That person would come to us as an independent artist with their own insurance, and they would sign the contract. We would pay them, and then they go back to their country of origin, and they have to declare taxes in their country of origin. And that, excuse me, that can only go up to 6 months. But then in our dinner show starts in November and goes until February. So that's a shorter contract, 4 months. So we have 3 months, 6 months, 10-month contracts, depending on the show, depending on what we can offer and the availability of the artist. Sometimes it's difficult if we do like the show now will run until the end of September, or an ice skater or a dancer. Now the dancer, they've just come to us now for rehearsals in March. We've just opened the park. They will stay with us until January. If they say, oh, we only want to stay till September, certainly an ice skater, or September, October, I'm not inclined really to want that to happen, because there's a lot of ice events in the winter. And of course, we give them the security of a 10-month contract. Possibly, yes, they can make more money at Christmas doing a 2-month Christmas ice show, but and I can't maybe pay that. But with a 10-month contract, then they come here, they know that it's very safe to work for us, that it's a very stable company, and they're going to get paid. We've all been in shows where you're not sure you're going to get paid at the end of the month, but I would so yeah, the contracts can be varying depending on what they do and what we can offer,
which is really amazing, and I think so in line with the generation of artists that we have before us and the next generation coming as well. Different strokes for different folks. Some people really love that longer term security and the comfort and safety of being in a place where they can really do what they love for an extended period. And as we know, as casting directors, for other people, that is not so much what they're seeking. But it sounds like you have options for pretty much everybody on the spectrum.
Depending on the time of the year, whether it's summer, Halloween, or Christmas.
Yeah. I want to circle back really quickly, because you've put a few nuggets into your conversation already. Can you describe for those listening what that email you referenced might sound like? Because I often have this conversation with young artists who are a little bit apprehensive, perhaps, about reaching out, possibly even a little bit fearful, or simply unsure whether they might be perceived as badgering. So when you talk about bringing an email into your inbox as a refresher or reminder, what's your favorite kind of email to receive?
Honestly, I would just like to receive a very short email. Just say, hey, reminding you, just so you know that I'm going to be in this contract. I'm going to be in this contract. I'm going to be available in September. I've updated my video. I've updated my number. I've changed the theme of my number. Here's a picture and a video, and quite short. Not to do the whole introduction, because not just talking about myself. Everyone is so busy, but I do have some badgering emails which come in very regularly, but sometimes I must say it has happened that somebody's written me right on the right time, and I thought, now because whether I've had some type of contractual difficulty with somebody either canceling or injury or something, and even if it's for a short time, so I would just say keep it short with with one photo, one video link. If the shows are just a reminder, I can, with respect to whoever written it, I can read it or not, or I can watch it or not. But if it's relevant, I will watch it and say, will this fit in the production that I'm doing, or something like that. So it's a good idea not to badger, but make it short and don't go into. But if you just tell me, hey, I'm going to be in. I'm going to be in, I'm in Europa Park here close to Freiburg, and they say, hey, I'm going to be in Stuttgart. I'm going to be in Stuttgart for the next 2 months. Then I might think, I'm going to go to Stuttgart and see the show. Tell me where you are, because sometimes I might be like yourself. You travel a lot, and maybe it's a thing because it's much nicer to see the person, see the act. And feel the energy of the people watching the act, and sometimes maybe I don't go specifically for that, but I'm in the area, and then I go and see something, and it's obviously happened that then we do something together. Maybe soon, or maybe in a year's time.
That is incredible advice, and I hope folks can interpret that as something that is really helping casting directors do their job, because hearing you describe all these different shows and all of the different needs across all those different shows, that's a large volume of talent that you are needing to actually manage and work with. And that is not the reflection of all the talent that you looked at to be able to make the decisions, the casting decisions for those shows. We all know that the entry point of the funnel is much, much broader than what we finally see on stage in the actual final selections. So I think that's really meaningful advice. And I think if anyone's not sure about the reaching out, if there is a purpose behind it, as Ian's described, and certainly that lands for me, that is enough of an impetus to write the email. Something has changed, something is new, you have something to say. It's not just about you, it's about what you have to offer potentially to that person in a hiring position. So Ian, you've touched on it a little bit around the database itself. Can we talk a little bit about that process? Like, what is your casting process, the way people can be seen and get their material in front of you? And then what do you do with it?
I must say, maybe I'm a little old school, that they started the entertainment database since I'm not in the department anymore. I'm doing something else. They have got it. You can cross-reference all the keywords, and you can look for a hula hoop, a juggler, aerial trapeze, aerial ring, all the different disciplines. So when they are obviously, when we're doing a dinner show, we want maybe 5, 6, 7 really special acts, and obviously you want them of different disciplines. So maybe they would say, we haven't got an aerial act, or we would love something like that. So then they have created this database, which with all these cross-reference keywords, and they will go through it and find that. I would still say that dropping an email, certainly not every week, certainly not, but dropping an email from time to time, just to sort of remind, because our database has got a lot of people, of course, and your job is to try and entice us to take you. Just remind us, and keep us current. Tell us where you are. I'm going to see a show next week. Some girl just sent me a postcard, which was really weird. I haven't received a postcard for years. A postcard, but it was a picture of her doing her, and she said, "Hey, I'm in that show. I'm going to see the show next week." She didn't know. I didn't know, and I wrote back and I said, "Hey, going to see you next week." So now I will spend special interest to see her act. That because and it was it was just one of these old picture postcards like we used to send years ago, with a picture of her, just say, hey, I'm working there this summer. I don't know if anyone's coming. And it just so happens that I am going. So, so that was opportune. Now, I don't want to say that I don't spend special interest, but I will spend special interest on her act because she wrote to me last week and she's in my mind.
This is super interesting. And I feel like it could be interpreted that that was just happenstance, great timing, which it kind of is. But underneath that is, by design, this artist being proactive in reaching out to the networks to be able to share information. And sure enough, in your case, the timing worked perfectly. It aligned.
Can you imagine that with all the Instagram? Can you imagine that with all Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp and SMS and emails and everything? She sends a picture postcard, and it's got my mind more on that than all of the Facebook Messenger messages. Yeah.
It's the reminder that getting work is work. It takes work and effort to be able to put yourself, and courage, frankly, to put yourself out in front and let casting directors like Ian know what's going on, so that then when there is that beautiful serendipitous moment of, oh, I'm going to be going to that show anyway, how opportune, we actually get to meet live and have a little bit of a chat, which sort of segues into this next piece around getting to see people live. Do you guys hold auditions?
Yes, that would be, they would connect the entertainment department themselves, and they do schedule auditions. I've got to say, a lot of it, they would probably do a video audition and then they would ask for a personal audition, but they do hold them. But the entertainment department on their website, entertainment at Europa Park, that's got all that information on what they do to bring in the talent. But they are also, we sort of split between different festivals ourselves, but we're out there as well, which is really quite important, to get out there to see the person, to meet the people, because then, you know, maybe you saw them do a tango and you spoke to them and you thought, yeah, maybe I didn't want to go into a tango type of thing, but maybe I could with that person because they had the type of personality, and you could offer to work with them on altering their acts. A lot of people do this now. I mean, you know very well that people take the talent and they will then maybe reproduce it to suit their theme of their show, and that's super important. So yeah, I answered way too long on one question. Yes,
it's meaningful because these are genuine nuggets directly from the source, and I think that's what's so key about these chats. This idea of being open to that, for example, knowing that you may well be viewed in context where that show or that number you're performing was created for a specific show, but an informed and experienced creator is potentially going to be looking at all of those transferable skills through the lens of what they are creating in an entirely different artistic landscape. So having that versatility as an artist, I think, is really key. And being mindful, if that's particularly a strength that you have as an artist, to demonstrate that and showcase your willingness to be able to adapt what you might have created or somebody created for you in one space, that openness to adapting it and perhaps recreating it for an entirely new space.
I think it's so important this year that you have this in this times now. You have to, there's not many artists now that work on something and only do that for their career. They used to for many years, but not many people now. People like myself and in different companies, they want to take the talents and they want to reproduce it for them. You're the expert of Cirque du Soleil, but they've done it. I don't believe they've taken many acts and took it as they saw it presented to them, but what they did with it was genius. So yeah.
We are at a moment in the conversation where I'd love to open the floor, and we have a couple of visitors with us live, hoping that they might have some unique questions of their own. So both Yulia and Jesse, I'm going to invite you to flip your cameras back on and join in on this conversation, and perhaps come to Ian with something specific that's of interest for you. You can pop your digital hand up or just break the ice and go for it.
Okay, I have like a 2-in-1 question. So when you're booking artists, what qualities or green flags do you see in them that makes you feel confident that they're going to deliver the results that you want? And on the flip side, what are some red flags or frustrations that you have that makes you feel less confident in them?
Well, obviously, the first thing that would attract me to the act would be the product delivery, the artistry. But whenever I'm watching any physical activity, it's the attention to respecting the technique. You can't take a chance on someone who you don't have the confidence that couldn't reproduce the same thing without having an accident. So I would, of course, I love beautiful artistry with all finished positions, and then with the character that's easily shared with the audience, engaging to the audience. But it would be very important to me, especially when we're talking about circus, that the technique is solid. Because if the technique is solid, then I am probably going to think, I'm probably going to have, I don't want to say an accident, but it won't be clean. You have to give the number clean. And you don't want, whether it's a juggler dropping everything or a handstand wobbling or something like that. Of course, I want the number to be really entertaining, but the technique, the bass, which my whole career was all about the bass technique and the respect too. And that's the first thing that would either make me not interested, even if the act was fantastically great fun to watch. But if it's something where I'm not confident that it's going to be clean, and then I would probably not be quite so interested. You okay with that? You okay with that? Do you agree?
Yeah, great. Thank you.
And I'll just very quickly add my 2 cents in. I've often thought of this in my own little brain. I think of it visually as something of a cylinder, and very much the language that Ian is using, the foundation, the base, that is sort of the goes without saying version. The rudimentary check mark has to be that consistency and technique that lets you transcend the technique to add in the next layer of artistry and character and entertainment and all the different components that then combined make a really beautiful and rich act. But like anything that we construct, if you have a crumbly foundation, it disservices all those other things, no matter how wonderful they might be.
Yeah, if it's just a visual thing, you know, if I hate the music or the costume or something like that, then I would probably, depending on if I wanted somebody just for one night for a gala or something, and the costume was horrible and the music was horrible, then I probably wouldn't go with it. But if I was interested that artist for 6 months, then we would try and work together to change that. And then there's many times I've had a choreographer work with the artist to change the sort of delivery of it. But if the person hasn't got a really good understanding of the technique to be able to reproduce whether it's 2 times a day, 3 times a day, or 5 nights a week, then it would make you feel uncomfortable.
Excellent question there, Jesse. Thank you for that. And feel welcome to keep coming at us with questions if other things have come up in the meantime. Yulia, I'll pass you the torch.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to share?
I have a practical question. So you mentioned that some shows are quite long. So for example, the dinner show, I think you said, can be up to 4 hours. What about for the shorter shows? Do they get repeated several times a night?
In our park daily operation, we've got most of the shows are 30 minutes in duration, and they are reproduced 2 or 3 times a day. It can be on massive days, it can be 4 times. We're not looking at doing 4 times this year, but it can be 2 or 3 times a day, predominantly 6 days a week. We have had where we've got say a variety show where we've got several different artists. What we've done to help those artists is they're only working 4 days a week. And let's say the show hasn't got a very, very strong theme. So they're working 4 days a week, and there's somebody else working 4 days a week, and there's somebody else working 4 days a week. So it works for us that we have more artists which can support us in the evenings for different things. And then it doesn't put so much physical stress on the artist. But yeah, several times a day. I've got to say it's not really easy in a park or to work, because some shows are reproduced 2 or 3 times a day. But in my experience, I'm here for 14 years, and nobody's ever said they don't want to come back, or because it's too much work. It's different also. If you're a special artist, you'll do predominantly just your number. An ice skater, they'll do lots of numbers. They're doing something like 10 numbers or 10 costume, or no, 8 costume changes in the show. Sometimes they've said, hey, this is a lot of hard work, and we try to reproduce the show or change the show a little bit. It's not easy, but then most people want to stay with us because we have these 300 artists from all around the world, whether it's high divers into, swimming, diving, or Brazilian acrobats, or Chinese acrobats, and you bring all these different people in together, and it becomes a community. So my ice skater necessarily is not spending her time or his time with other ice skaters. He or she is off with an Italian singer, or so we have this very sort of great community of different artists, and it's this sort of shared love for the shows that we do.
On the practical level, again, perhaps you can do a very quick step-by-step walkthrough of how an artist can in fact apply. What is the very first thing they need to prepare, and then what are the actual mechanisms for getting that material into your system? Well,
it's every artist, and still we fail at this, that even though that you might be a young artist coming out of circus school or dance school or something, you have to prepare your promotional material properly. It's got to be nice pictures. It's got to be as good as possible. I understand when I get ice skating or dancing videos, but they haven't got the money to do something like that. But nevertheless, it should be prepared where I can clearly see the person, see the body type, see the technical ability. And then they would come on to our entertainment at europapark.de website, and they would upload their personal information, and with pictures, with a video, and then obviously with the keyword if you're an aerial trapeze, so that they would put it into a cross-reference. With me personally, I have my different categories of where whether it's a 4-man motorbike act that we had last year, or two guys doing straps or hand in hand or something. But it's important the video, and if you're proposing yourself with your act, with your costume should be nice, even though that it might be asked to be changed. But nevertheless, it's about you know, you'd be still surprised. I'm still surprised now that people send me pictures that I can't see the person. That the light is terrible. I can't see their face. I can't see their body. I can't actually see very well what they did. And I think even with the iPhones now, we can do a video clear enough that would give me or anyone working in my business a clear understanding of what you're doing, what you look like, how you perform. Can I see any emotional presence in your presentation? Because it's important to see what, hey, she's a great performer, or he's a great performer, or she whatever the discipline. There's too many disciplines to mention. But some promotional, set it out nicely in the CV. Doesn't have to have a huge amount of experience, because we're in an evolving business. We like young people, and we like a balance of sort of slightly older, very experienced people and the young people, and we put them together, and it always has a nice balance for our guests, that they can appreciate the people that are a little older, let's say, but have a lot of experience, and then the young people just on stage having a great time. And that's, as a guest, I feel that's what I want. That I want people to be looking at me, and I feel they're having a great time. I go off topic so many times.
Hey, I don't think I'm alone in saying this is all incredibly meaningful and insightful information. So you're welcome to go down any tangent you wish. I think the piece that I'd like to touch on and just reinforce really is this idea that it actually doesn't have to cost a lot of money. There is a very deep understanding on this side of the reception of this material that not all folks have lots and lots of money to throw at high production value videos. That is not what's going to secure you the job. In fact, Ian mentions filming on an iPhone. It's the fact that it's deliberately done, that you don't need to go into a very high production value, but you need to be mindful of things like, can we find you in that image? Can we see you and hear the music clearly to see how you relate and interpret that music? Everything has to be by design, just doesn't have to be crazy fancy, because really this is an evaluation and a communication tool, the same like the resume you mentioned. You want things clearly laid out so that we can at a glance really understand where you come from and what you have done up until now in a way that is a communication exchange. Anything that you might want to add to that, Ian? Any sort of specific things you love and things that are big old do not do this moments?
Well, I mean, when we talk about dancers or acrobat or some acrobats or ice skaters, they'll send me a picture of or they'll send me a video and they'll say, I'm the one wearing yellow or something like that. And you can see I'm wearing my glasses. I just want to see them. I just want to see them. And many dancers are filmed on an iPhone. Of course, it doesn't have, I don't want a big production because I'm not taking the video. I'm taking the person in the video. And if somehow somebody can be cool enough, I mean, I quite like the videos. A lot of people send me videos. I know there are some established artists that wouldn't want to do that, but I quite like it when somebody just picks up their iPhone and introduces to themselves and say, hey, I'm moving to Barcelona. I'm moving to Barcelona, and I just want to share with you my work. And I've been training at this center, or I work there. And then I have like a 20-second. I feel like when I can see your face talking, maybe I can read a little bit about something, a little bit about you, and then I see what you're trying to share, your physical or artistic ability. But I quite like it when there's an intro. This is myself. Maybe other people wouldn't like that, but it's a bit personal, which I quite like. Just somebody just saying, hey, I'm 24 years old. I'm doing this, and I skated in that competition, or I'm dancing, and I just want to show you my my video. I quite like that because I feel like I've talked with the person a little bit, or got a view whether he is you know, it doesn't have to be articulate or something, but if he's got a personality, he'll share it to me, and he's not timid. And we are in show business, and we're performing for people. And if someone can talk and just say, hey, watch me, then I'm going to probably watch it.
I absolutely love that advice. And I'm with you in that camp of really appreciating the little introductions, particularly in the digital era where we don't always get a chance to meet everybody first. There are a lot of hires that are done by virtue of at least the process of going through your material. Hopefully, perhaps a little meet and greet or a Zoom or some type of interconnection. But I really, really encourage artists to do that short intro, bearing in mind also that it is the you piece that someone like Ian's trying to connect with for a moment, not necessarily the character that you are representing in your act, particularly if you're made up, if you're very costumed. It's really sort of hard to get through that because that's all contextual to your number. And really what we want to see is exactly this. The lips moving, the voice coming out of your head, and just a little bit about who you are and where you come from, and maybe even what you aspire to. All of this helps just anchor a little bit the human being behind the artist. We're coming up to the end of our hour, and you have just parachuted in all kinds of super interesting things for us, Ian. I might reach back out to our live guests and see if there's anything in parting that you might want to share or ask.
Okay.
I have a creation question. Might not be a short, but so when you're starting to work on a show, where are you starting from? Are you starting from an idea or some artists that you've seen and some acts you want to integrate? Like, where does that process go from?
For me in the park, I mean, creation, I do it, I love it, and I hate it. It's so hard when you've got a blank piece of paper and you think, what am I going to put on it? It can be walking down the street, seeing a picture, can be just something and say, it sends you off into something. If I was talking if I was planning a whole show, I would be saying, okay, I need balance. If I'm doing a 30-minute show, I definitely want the highs and the lows and more emotional, a little bit lighthearted, and then something with a highlight end or something. But I can't tell you where I knew this year I wanted to do something with light because I'm representing where we might go a little bit more extreme with that next year, because we're opening an amazing new themed area in Europa Park, which will be the sort of celebration of electricity. We're building a roller coaster, which I can see half of it's built right now. It's going to be the most amazing thing you've ever seen. But then, so this year I wanted to touch on light, but then it's pretty hard. But you've got to get a balance and of highs and lows and emotional. If I'm talking about one number, then of course it can be music that can. I'm always very drawn to music, because music really translates the emotion, and then the costume and the choreography and the artistry and all of that comes in. But it's hard to actually answer just quickly, but as much as I love it, I hate it as well, because sometimes you're really nervous. You've got the deadline and you think, everyone's saying, oh, we've got to do the poster for this show, and you haven't told us the whole show yet. I'm working on it. So not easy.
Okay, well, with that, I think not easy kind of sums up a career in the world of circus and performing arts. Let's face it, it's not easy, nor should it be, but boy, can it be rewarding and enriching. Ian, thank you so much for being here, for being a part of this Pro Talk. Thanks to our intimate audience today, and thanks to all of you listening afterwards. I would like to make a correlation and maybe even a little reminder here. A lot of the larger companies, the people who are in hiring roles like Ian and his team do have databases that it's very tailored and customized to their needs. Do take advantage of that. It's really important because every company has its inner workings. I also invite you to make sure that you make that same effort with your CircusTalk profile so that there is the ability for the cross-pollination and the cross-reference, that you can be seen by all kinds of people in the industry, whether they have their own in-house database or not. And sometimes we have people who are using both. So do take advantage of the CircusTalk profile. You as artists can get in there and make sure all your most recent material is in there, and take advantage of all these nuggets that Ian has shared about what that material looks like and what someone in a hiring position specifically needs to see to feel really informed about offering you that next career opportunity. So thank you again, Ian. Thanks to everybody participating. Thanks to Em, our community manager, who is back-ending this whole project. We'll see you again for another Pro Talk, and have a wonderful season, Ian. I hope that this show, it sounds like it's kicked off with a bang, and I hope that it's just dynamite all season long.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Continued success for yourself as well.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.